The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with activity. Hundreds of alien beings filled the massive chamber, their voices creating a symphony of different languages and sounds. Some looked like giant insects, others resembled walking trees, and a few appeared to be made of living crystal. In the middle of it all sat Ambassador Sarah Chen, the only human in the room. Sarah watched as the various species took their seats. She had been Earth's representative for 3 years now, and the aliens still treated her like a curious pet. They patted her head when she spoke about human art and culture. They smiled when she talked about Earth's peaceful nature and love for trade. If only they knew the truth. The meeting began with the usual ceremonies. Each species chanted their traditional greetings in their own language. Sarah stood and bowed politely when it was Earth's turn, speaking in perfect galactic standard about humanity's desire for friendship and cooperation. "Thank you, Ambassador Chen," said the council speaker, a tall blue being with 4 arms. "Your species continues to be a shining example of peaceful development." Sarah smiled and nodded. Around her, the other aliens made approving sounds. The Quillians clicked their beaks happily. The Zephyrians hummed in harmony. Even the usually stern Altarians seemed pleased with her words. The pleasantries ended when Councillor Zethmar stood up. The Altarian leader was massive, even by his species standards. His gray skin looked like living stone, and his red eyes glowed in the chamber's light. "We face a serious problem," Zethmar announced. "The Vraktar horde has attacked 3 more worlds this month. They destroyed the colonies on Kepler 7 and Tau Ceti 2. Thousands are dead." A wave of fear swept through the chamber. Sarah had heard about the Vraktar before. They were a warrior race that lived for battle and conquest. For the past 2 years, they had been attacking worlds on the outer edge of galactic civilization. "What do we know about their plans?" asked Councillor Vexera, an insectoid being with sharp claws and compound eyes. "Our scouts report they have at least 50 battle fleets," Zethmar replied. "They're moving toward the core worlds. At this rate, they'll reach the inner systems within 6 months." The chamber erupted in worried chatter. Sarah listened carefully, making mental notes of everything she heard: fleet positions, defensive capabilities, supply routes. All of it went into her memory for later reporting. "We must organize our defenses," declared High Admiral Korth of the Draconian Fleet. "Each species should contribute ships and troops according to their abilities." "But how do we fight them?" asked a small mouse-like creature from the Pequin Collective. "The Vraktar don't follow the rules of civilized warfare. They attack civilian targets. They don't accept surrender. They kill prisoners." This statement caused even more panic. For thousands of years, galactic warfare had been conducted according to strict rules. Battles were fought between military forces only. Civilians were never targeted. Defeated enemies were treated with honor. The idea of total war was foreign to most species. "Perhaps we should try diplomacy first," suggested the Zephyrian representative, her melodic voice barely audible above the noise. "Surely even the Vraktar can be reasoned with." Admiral Korth snorted, smoke rising from his nostrils. "You cannot reason with those who see reason as weakness. The Vraktar respect only strength." The debate continued for hours. Some species wanted to fight, others preferred to retreat to safer systems. A few suggested building better defenses and hoping the Vraktar would lose interest. Sarah said very little during the discussion. When asked for Earth's opinion, she spoke carefully about humanity's limited military experience. "My people have always preferred peaceful solutions," she told the council. "We have some defensive capabilities, but nothing compared to the great military powers represented here. Perhaps we could help with medical supplies or refugee assistance?" The aliens nodded approvingly. Here was a species that knew its place. Humans were good for trade and culture, but real military matters were best left to the warrior races. "Your offer is generous, Ambassador Chen," said the speaker. "Any humanitarian aid would be welcome." As the meeting wound down, Councillor Zethmar approached Sarah. "I have heard that human technology is quite advanced in some areas," he said quietly. "Perhaps your people could share defensive systems or shield technologies." Sarah looked surprised. "I'm not sure we have anything that would be useful to you, Counselor. Human technology is rather primitive compared to galactic standards. We're still learning so much from all of you." Zethmar studied her face for a moment, then nodded. "Of course. I meant no offense." "None taken," Sarah replied with a warm smile. "We humans know we have much to learn before we can truly contribute to galactic security." After the meeting ended, Sarah returned to her private quarters in the council complex. The rooms were modest but comfortable, designed to accommodate various alien physiologies. She activated her personal communicator and began recording her daily report. Day 1247 of diplomatic assignment. She spoke in perfect English. Council meeting focused on Vraktar threat. Current intelligence indicates 50 combat fleets moving toward core systems. Estimated arrival in 6 months. Galactic response remains limited to conventional defensive measures. She paused and pulled up a holographic display showing star charts. Red markers indicated Vraktar attacks. Blue markers showed galactic military positions. Yellow markers, invisible to alien sensors, showed the true positions of human forces throughout the galaxy. Recommend immediate activation of Phase 3 protocols. She continued. All target data has been acquired. Weakness assessments are complete. The sheep are ready for shearing. Sarah sent the encrypted message through channels that appeared to be routine diplomatic communications. To any alien monitoring the transmission, it would look like a simple report to Earth's government about trade opportunities and cultural exchanges. But the real message was very different. Within hours, her personal communicator chimed with an incoming message. The sender was listed as Earth Cultural Ministry, but Sarah knew better. Package received and understood. The message read in the same friendly diplomatic language. Cultural exchange programs are proceeding as planned. Archaeological expedition to Vraktar historical sites has been approved. Exchange students are excited to begin their studies. Sarah smiled as she decoded the real meaning. The archaeological expedition was a full battle fleet. The exchange students were special forces teams. The cultural exchange programs were weapons deliveries to human bases throughout the galaxy. For 3 years, humanity had played the role of peaceful newcomers. They had built trading posts that were actually military bases. They had sent civilian ships that carried enough firepower to destroy planets. They had stationed cultural observers on every major world, all of them trained soldiers gathering intelligence. The aliens thought humans were weak and harmless. They had no idea that Earth had been preparing for this moment since first contact. Every human in the galaxy was a soldier. Every human ship was a warship. Every human outpost was a fortress. The Vraktar horde was about to learn what real warfare looked like. Sarah closed her communicator and prepared for bed. Tomorrow she would attend another council meeting and listen to more debates about defensive strategies. She would nod sympathetically when the aliens expressed fear about the approaching enemy. She would offer to help with medical supplies and refugee assistance. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, human fleets were already moving toward their targets. The Vraktar had made one crucial mistake. They had threatened humanity's new friends. That was something humans could never forgive. 3 weeks after the council meeting, emergency alarms echoed through the Galactic Council chambers. Ambassador Sarah Chen rushed to the emergency session along with hundreds of other representatives. The great hall buzzed with worried voices and fearful whispers. The massive display screen at the front of the chamber showed a map of the galaxy. Red warning lights blinked across 12 different star systems. Each light represented a Vraktar fleet that had gone completely silent. "The situation is unprecedented," announced Admiral Korth, his usual confidence replaced by confusion. "We lost contact with Vraktar forces in the Kepler sector yesterday. When we sent scout ships to investigate, we found only debris fields." Murmurs of surprise rippled through the chamber. The Vraktar were known for their powerful fleets and brutal efficiency. They had never suffered such massive losses before. "What about survivors?" asked Counselor Vexara, her compound eyes reflecting the red warning lights. "That's the strange part," replied Admiral Korth. "We found very few. The ones we did find were different. They kept talking about ghost ships and impossible weapons. Most of them won't stop shaking." Sarah watched the proceedings with careful attention. Around her, the aliens seemed genuinely puzzled by the news. They had expected the Vraktar to continue their advance toward the core worlds. Instead, the enemy had simply vanished. "Could they be retreating?" suggested the Zephyrian representative. Admiral Korth shook his massive head. "The Vraktar don't retreat. Ever. In 300 years of recorded history, they have never withdrawn from a battle. Something destroyed those fleets." The chamber fell silent. Every species had faced the Vraktar at some point. They knew how dangerous the warrior race could be. The idea that someone or something could wipe out 50 battle fleets was terrifying. "We need more information," declared Counselor Zethmar. "Send investigation teams to all affected areas. I want to know what happened out there." Over the next several days, the reports grew stranger. Scout teams found Vraktar ships torn apart by weapons that ignored their shields. They discovered space stations that had been completely emptied of life, with no signs of fighting inside. Most disturbing of all, they found evidence that entire Vraktar colonies had been evacuated in panic. Sarah attended every briefing and emergency meeting. She took careful notes and asked thoughtful questions. To the other council members, she seemed just as confused and concerned as everyone else. But when she returned to her quarters each night, her reports to Earth were very different. Phase 3 proceeding ahead of schedule, she recorded in her latest message. Target elimination at 97% efficiency. Psychological warfare effects exceed expectations. Remaining Vraktar forces showing signs of complete morale collapse. The truth was that humanity's first real military operation had been a stunning success. Human forces had struck without warning, using weapons and tactics completely unknown to galactic civilization. They had destroyed the Vraktar fleet so quickly that most enemies never even saw who was attacking them. But the aliens were starting to ask uncomfortable questions. During one investigation briefing, Counselor Vixara presented new sensor data. Her insectoid face showed deep concern as she activated the display. "We found something interesting in the Tau Ceti system," she announced. "Our sensors detected several unidentified ships in the area just before the Vraktar fleet disappeared. The display showed fuzzy images of sleek vessels unlike anything in the galactic database. They moved with impossible speed and fired weapons that created strange energy signatures. Could these be the attackers?" asked Admiral Korth. "Possibly," replied Vexara. "But here's what troubles me. When we compared these sensor readings to our traffic records, we found something unexpected. Human trading ships were reported in that same system on the same day." All eyes turned to Sarah. She kept her expression calm and interested, as if this was the first time she was hearing about it. "That's certainly a coincidence," she said thoughtfully. "Do you think the human vessels might have witnessed the attack? They could provide valuable intelligence." "We tried to contact them," Vexara continued, "but according to their flight logs, they had already departed for another system before any fighting began." Very convenient timing. There was something in the insectoid's tone that made Sarah alert. Vexara was known for her intelligence and strategic thinking. If anyone would start connecting the dots, it would be her. "Are you suggesting that human ships were involved in the attacks?" asked Counselor Zethmar. Vexara paused carefully before answering. "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm simply noting that human vessels have been present in or near several systems just before Vraktar forces disappeared. It could be coincidence." "Of course it's coincidence," Sarah said with a slight laugh. "What would human traders want with military conflicts? We barely have enough weapons to defend ourselves, let alone attack someone else's fleets." Most of the council members nodded in agreement. The idea of peaceful, trade-focused humanity attacking the mighty Vraktar seemed ridiculous. But Sarah noticed that Vexara didn't look convinced. The breakthrough came 2 weeks later. Badly damaged Vraktar ship limped into the neutral system of Haven's Rest. The vessel was so beaten that its crew had to be rescued by Galactic Council forces. When the survivors were brought before the emergency council session, their testimony changed everything. The Vraktar commander was a veteran warrior named Graketh. He had fought in dozens of battles and conquered entire worlds. But now he sat in the witness chair, trembling like a frightened child. "Tell us what happened," ordered Admiral Korth gently. Graketh looked around the chamber with haunted eyes. "They came from nowhere," he whispered. "Ships that didn't appear on our sensors until they were already firing. Weapons that passed through our shields like they weren't there." "Who attacked you?" pressed the Admiral. "Humans," Graketh said, and the word sent a shock through the entire chamber. Sarah felt her heart racing, but she kept her face neutral. Around her, aliens turned to stare in disbelief. "That's impossible," declared the Zephyrian representative. "Humans are peaceful traders." Graketh laughed bitterly. "Peaceful? These humans fought like demons. They boarded our ships not to capture them, but to hunt us down. They moved through our corridors like death itself, killing every warrior they found." "You must be mistaken," insisted Counselor Zethmar. "Perhaps these were rogue elements, pirates using human technology." "No." Graketh shook his head violently. "I know humans when I see them. And these weren't pirates. They fought with discipline and coordination. They had weapons I've never seen before. They used tactics that ignored every rule of civilized warfare. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Sarah sat quietly, maintaining her expression of surprise and concern. "What kind of tactics?" asked Vexara, her compound eyes fixed on the Vraktar commander. "They targeted our supply lines first," Gracketh explained. "Not our warships, but our fuel depots and food stores. They attacked our communications relays, cutting us off from other fleets. They broadcasted images of our defeats to our own people, breaking our morale before they even engaged our main forces." Admiral Korth frowned. "That's not how galactic warfare is conducted." "Exactly," Gracketh replied. "They don't fight like civilized beings. They fight to win, completely and totally. When they attacked our main fleet, they didn't offer terms for surrender. They didn't follow the codes of honorable combat. They simply destroyed everything." The alien representatives looked at each other in growing alarm. This description of human warfare was completely different from everything they thought they knew about humanity. "There must be some mistake," Sarah finally spoke up. "I can assure you that Earth's government has no knowledge of any military operations in Vraktar space. Perhaps we should investigate these claims more thoroughly." But even as she said the words, Sarah could see doubt growing in many alien faces. Vexara was studying her with obvious suspicion. "Yes," the insectoid said slowly. "I think a very thorough investigation is exactly what we need." Sarah smiled and nodded, but inside her mind was racing. The secret was out. Soon the entire galaxy would know the truth about humanity. The question was, what would they do about it? The Security Committee chamber was much smaller than the main council hall. Only 12 members sat around the circular table, representing the most powerful species in galactic civilization. Ambassador Sarah Chen sat alone at the center, facing questions from beings who were no longer hiding their suspicions. Counselor Vexara placed a data pad on the table. Her compound eyes never left Sarah's face as she began to speak. "We've been investigating human activities for the past month," the insectoid said coldly. "What we found is very interesting. Your trading post on Kepler Prime has defense systems stronger than most military bases. Your civilian transport ships carry weapon signatures that don't match anything in our databases. Your cultural observers have been asking very specific questions about our military capabilities." Sarah remained calm, her hands folded in her lap. "I'm sure there are reasonable explanations for any unusual readings." "Are there?" Vexara activated a holographic display showing surveillance footage. "This is from Vraktar space 3 days ago. Watch carefully." The image showed a human ship attacking a Vraktar destroyer, but this wasn't the clumsy vessel of a peaceful trader. The human ship moved with deadly grace, firing weapons that tore through enemy shields like they were made of paper. In less than 5 minutes, the Vraktar warship was nothing but burning debris. "Your civilian transport just destroyed a ship that could have conquered entire star systems," observed Admiral Korth. "Would you care to explain how that's possible?" Sarah studied the faces around the table. These weren't the friendly, trusting aliens she had been fooling for 3 years. These were the galaxy's top military and intelligence leaders, and they were angry. She made her decision. "You want the truth?" Sarah asked quietly. "Very well, but I should warn you. The truth is going to be uncomfortable." She stood up and walked to the holographic display. With practiced movements, she activated her personal communicator and connected it to the chamber's systems. New images filled the air above the table. "This is Earth's orbital shipyard," she said, showing massive construction facilities hidden behind the moon. "We currently have 1,200 warships in active service, with 300 more under construction." The alien representatives stared in shock. The images showed ships larger and more heavily armed than anything in the galactic fleet. "This is our Mars training facility," Sarah continued, changing the display. "Every human child begins basic military training at age 12. By 18, they are qualified soldiers. By 25, they are combat veterans." "Combat veterans?" whispered the Zephyrian representative. "But Earth has been at peace for decades." Sarah smiled coldly. "Earth has been at peace. Humans have not. We've been fighting continuous training. Wars in virtual reality systems so advanced they're identical to real combat. Every human in the galaxy has fought and died in simulated battles thousands of times." She changed the display again, showing what appeared to be human trading posts throughout the galaxy. These aren't trading posts, she explained. They're forward military bases. Each one can support a full battle fleet. Each one is equipped with weapons capable of destroying planets. Counselor Zethmar's stone-like face showed the first crack of emotion Sarah had ever seen. Why? Why build such military power if you claim to be peaceful? Because we studied you, Sarah replied bluntly. All of you. We watched how you conduct warfare, how you think about conflict, how you resolve disputes, and we realized that you've forgotten how to fight real wars. She activated new files showing detailed analysis of every major galactic species. The Altarians are physically powerful but rely too heavily on personal honor in combat, she read from the data. The Draconians have impressive firepower but predictable attack patterns based on ancient traditions. The Quillians are intelligent, but lack the killer instinct necessary for total warfare. Admiral Korth's eyes blazed with fury. You dare call us weak? Not weak, Sarah corrected. Civilized. You've evolved beyond the need for total war, which is admirable, but it also makes you vulnerable to species that haven't evolved, like the Vraktar, or like us. Vexara leaned forward. So you've been planning to conquer us from the beginning? Planning? Yes. Intending? That depends entirely on you. Sarah brought up a new display showing the complete destruction of Vraktar forces throughout the galaxy. This is what happened when the Vraktar threatened our new friends, she explained. We didn't defeat them in honorable combat. We exterminated them like vermin. Their fleets are gone. Their colonies are empty. Their entire civilization exists. Now only on a few scattered worlds and only because we allow it. The chamber fell silent except for the hum of electronics. The alien representatives looked at each other with growing fear. The Vraktar had 50 battle fleets, Admiral Korth said slowly. They had conquered dozens of worlds. How did you destroy them so completely? Sarah's expression became predatory. Because you don't understand what war really is. You think war is about armies fighting armies with rules and honor and limited objectives. That's not war. That's a game. She changed the display to show human tactical doctrine. Real war is about destroying your enemy's ability and will to fight. We targeted their supply lines, their communications, their morale. We attacked their civilian populations to create refugees that would burden their military. We used psychological warfare to make their own soldiers afraid to fight. We didn't just defeat their fleets, we broke their entire society. That's monstrous, whispered the Zephyrian representative. That's effective, Sarah replied without emotion. The Vraktar will never threaten anyone again, not because they can't, but because they're too terrified to try. Counselor Zethmar stood up slowly. Are you threatening us? I'm explaining reality to you, Sarah answered. Humanity has been preparing for galactic warfare since first contact. Every human ship, every human base, every human citizen is part of our military machine. We have detailed invasion plans for every major species in this room. She brought up new files showing Earth's intelligence on each species' homeworld. We know the exact location of your command centers, your industrial facilities, your population centers. We have agents on your worlds and sleeper weapons in your systems. If we wanted to conquer the galaxy, we could do it in less than 6 months. The aliens looked at the data with growing horror. The humans had been preparing for war while everyone else believed they were trading and learning about culture. But here's what you need to understand, Sarah continued, her voice becoming slightly warmer. We don't want to conquer you. We want to protect you. Protect us? Vexara's voice was filled with disbelief. Sarah nodded. The Vraktar were just the beginning. Our deep space monitors have detected signals from outside the galaxy. Something is coming. Something that makes the Vraktar look like children playing with toys. In about 50 years, we're going to face a threat that could destroy all life in the galaxy. She showed new images. Sensor readings from the galactic rim showing massive energy signatures moving through the void between galaxies. We call them the Devourers, Sarah explained. They don't conquer worlds. They consume them completely. Every living thing, every useful resource, everything. They leave nothing behind but empty rock floating in space. Admiral Korth studied the readings. These energy signatures are enormous, larger than anything we've ever seen. Exactly, and when they arrive, your civilized rules of warfare won't matter. They won't negotiate, they won't accept surrender, they won't show mercy. They'll simply eat everything in their path until nothing remains. Sarah turned back to face the committee. That's why we've been preparing. Not to conquer you, but to save you. Because when the Devourers arrive, only a species that understands real warfare will be able to stop them. The chamber was quiet for a long moment. Finally, Counselor Zethmar spoke. What do you want from us? Partnership. Sarah replied immediately. We need your industrial capacity, your technological knowledge, your unique abilities. In exchange, we'll teach you how to fight real wars. We'll turn the galaxy into a fortress that even the Devourers can't break. Vexara's compound eyes studied the human carefully. And if we refuse? Sarah's smile was cold and final. Then in 50 years you'll all be dead, and humanity will face the Devourers alone. We'd prefer to have allies, but we're prepared to be the galaxy's only survivors if necessary. The weight of her words settled over the chamber like a heavy blanket. The alien representatives realized they were no longer the masters of their own fate. The age of human dominance had begun. The news of humanity's true nature spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Within days of Sarah Chen's revelation to the Security Committee, every species knew the terrible truth. The peaceful traders they had welcomed were actually the most dangerous military force the galaxy had ever seen. The Galactic Council building became a fortress. Security forces from dozens of species patrolled the halls, their weapons ready. Emergency meetings happened around the clock as species tried to decide how to respond to the human threat. In the main chamber, chaos ruled. Representatives shouted at each other in dozens of languages. Some demanded immediate action against humanity. Others argued for caution. A few quietly began making secret deals to protect their own worlds. Counselor Vexara stood at the center of it all, trying to maintain order. Her compound eyes were bloodshot from lack of sleep, and her usual calm had been replaced by barely controlled panic. The situation is clear, she announced to the assembly. Humanity has deceived us from the moment of first contact. They have military bases throughout our territory. They have weapons that can destroy our fleets. They have demonstrated their willingness to use total warfare against the Vraktar. We must act before they decide we are also a threat. Roars of agreement echoed through the chamber. The Altarian delegation stood as one, their stone-like faces showing rare emotion. The Altarian Collective formally proposes military action against the human threat, declared Counselor Zethmar. We must strike before they can complete whatever plan they are hatching. But not everyone agreed. The smaller species, those without powerful militaries, looked terrified at the idea of war with humanity. Have you all lost your minds? Demanded Ambassador Quillix of the Pequin Collective. Did you not hear what they did to the Vraktar? 50 battle fleets destroyed in less than a month. And you want to attack them? What choice do we have? Admiral Korth replied, smoke rising from his nostrils. Should we wait for them to decide we're next? Should we surrender our freedom without a fight? The debate raged for hours. Some species wanted to form a grand alliance against humanity. Others preferred diplomatic solutions. A few suggested retreat to the Outer Rim and hoped the humans would ignore them. During a brief recess, Vexara met with her intelligence team in a secure briefing room. The news they brought was even worse than she had feared. We've completed our analysis of human capabilities, reported her aide, a nervous Quillian named War. The results are troubling. The holographic display showed detailed breakdowns of human military assets throughout the galaxy. They weren't lying about their ship counts, War continued. We've identified at least 1,200 active warships, possibly more. Each one carries enough firepower to destroy a major colony. Vexara studied the data with growing dread. What about their bases? Over 300 confirmed military installations, all disguised as civilian facilities. They're positioned to control every major trade route and strategic system. If fighting begins, they could cut off supply lines between our worlds within hours. The display changed to show human population centers throughout galactic space. This is perhaps the most disturbing finding, Tekwar said quietly. There are currently over 2 million humans living and working throughout the galaxy. Our analysis suggests that at least 60% of them have military training. You mean they have over 1 million soldiers already in position on our worlds? Vexura asked. Worse than that. According to intercepted communications, every human civilian is actually a reserve soldier. If war begins, they could activate sleeper agents on thousands of worlds simultaneously. Vexura closed her compound eyes and tried to process the magnitude of the threat. Humanity hadn't just hidden their military capabilities. They had positioned themselves to conquer the galaxy without firing a shot. There's more, HFY continued reluctantly. We've detected unusual energy signatures around several major worlds. The humans appear to have placed unknown devices in strategic locations throughout our territory. What kind of devices? We're not certain. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases, but their placement suggests they could be weapons, possibly planet killers. The briefing room fell silent. The full scope of humanity's preparations was becoming clear, and it was far worse than anyone had imagined. When the council session resumed, Vexura shared her findings with the assembly. The reaction was immediate and intense. They've been planning this invasion for years, shouted the Zephyrian representative. We welcomed them as friends while they were preparing to enslave us. What about their claims regarding these devourers? Asked a more cautious voice from the back of the chamber. Could they be telling the truth about an external threat? Admiral Korth snorted dismissively. Even if this external threat exists, that doesn't excuse their deception. They could have asked for our help instead of preparing to conquer us, could they? Challenged Ambassador Quillix. Look at how we're reacting now that we know the truth. Would any of you have agreed to militarize the entire galaxy if humans had asked politely? This question caused uncomfortable silence. Many species had spent centuries moving away from militaristic cultures. The idea of preparing for total war was foreign to most of them. It doesn't matter, declared Counselor Zethmar. They made the choice to deceive us. They made the choice to threaten us. We must respond with strength. But as the debate continued, it became clear that responding with strength was easier said than done. Several smaller species had already received visits from human diplomatic teams making offers of protection in exchange for cooperation. The humans are dividing us, observed Vexura during another intelligence briefing. They're offering individual deals to species they think might be useful allies. The Zephyrians are considering their proposal for advanced shield technology. The Pequin Collective has been promised protection for their homeworld. What about the major powers? Asked HFY. That's where it gets complicated. The humans haven't made direct threats against the Altarians or Draconians yet, but they've demonstrated their power by positioning battle fleets near our border systems. The message is clear: they can reach us whenever they want. The political situation grew more complex by the day. Some species were secretly negotiating with humanity, while publicly supporting military action. Others were trying to stay neutral while quietly preparing their own defenses. Meanwhile, intercepted human communications showed they were moving additional forces into position throughout the galaxy. Not attacking, but clearly preparing for any possibility. They're not acting like conquerors, admitted one intelligence analyst during a classified briefing. If they wanted to take over, they could have done it already. Instead, they seem to be waiting for us to make the first move. This observation troubled many council members. If humanity truly wanted to conquer the galaxy, why reveal their capabilities at all? Why not simply attack without warning, as they had done with the Vraktar? The answer came during a private communication that Ambassador Sarah Chen sent to the full council. Honored representatives, her message began. I understand your fear and anger at learning the truth about humanity. We accept responsibility for our deception, but before you make any irreversible decisions, please consider the following. The message included detailed sensor data from Earth's deep space monitoring stations, showing the approaching Devourer fleet in much greater detail than before. These readings are from our most advanced detection systems. Chen's message continued. The Devourers will reach the outer edge of our galaxy in approximately 47 years. When they arrive, they will consume every world in their path. There will be no negotiation, no mercy, no survival for anyone who cannot fight them off. The data was terrifying. The Devourer ships were enormous, each one larger than a space station. Their energy signatures suggested weapons that could crack planets apart. We revealed our capabilities now because we're running out of time, the message explained. It will take decades to prepare adequate defenses. It will take even longer to teach the galaxy how to fight a war of survival. Every day we delay is a day closer to extinction. The message ended with a simple statement. The choice is yours. Fight with us, fight against us, or do nothing and die when the devourers arrive. But choose quickly. The galaxy's survival depends on what we do in the next few years. After receiving this message, the Council fell into troubled silence. They faced an impossible decision. Trust the humans who had lied to them for years, or risk the destruction of everything they had built. Either choice might doom them all. The Galactic Council chamber had been completely transformed. Gone were the comfortable seats and decorative elements that had adorned the peaceful assembly hall. In their place stood tactical displays, communications equipment, and military planning tables. The chamber now looked like what it had become, a war room. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the center of it all, but her title had changed. She now wore the uniform of Supreme Military Coordinator, with rank insignia that represented not just Earth, but the entire Galactic Alliance. The transformation had taken 5 years, but it was finally complete. Status report, she commanded, her voice carrying easily across the chamber. The responses came from dozens of species, each reporting on different aspects of the galaxy's preparations. What had once been separate civilizations had become specialized divisions of humanity's war machine. Altarian Heavy Industries reports full production capacity, declared the former Counselor Zethmar, now General Zethmar of the Alliance Engineering Corps. We've completed construction of 1,500 new battleships this quarter, all built to human specifications. Excellent. Zephyrian Command? Our scouts have mapped the entire outer rim, replied Admiral Silandra, her melodic voice now carrying military precision. We've identified optimal defensive positions and begun construction of early warning stations. Quillian Intelligence Division? Psychological warfare programs are proceeding as planned, reported Director Vexara, her compound eyes now enhanced with cybernetic implants that allowed her to process battle data at superhuman speeds. We've studied devourer communication patterns and developed countermeasures to their fear tactics. Sarah nodded approval at each report. The transformation of galactic civilization had been remarkable. Species that had spent centuries avoiding military conflict now competed to prove their value in the coming war. It hadn't been easy. The first 2 years after humanity's revelation had been marked by resistance, fear, and attempted rebellions. Several species had tried to form coalitions against human dominance. Others had attempted to flee to distant galaxies. All such efforts had failed. The Altarian Collective's attempt at military resistance had lasted exactly 18 hours. Human forces had simultaneously struck every major Altarian military base, destroyed their fleet, and occupied their capital world without killing a single civilian. The message was clear: resistance was futile, but cooperation would be rewarded. The Draconian Empire had tried a different approach, attempting to negotiate a separate peace with the approaching devourers. Sarah had allowed them to try, even providing long-range communication equipment for the purpose. The devourers' response had been to immediately change course toward Draconian space, drawn by the signals like predators scenting blood. It had taken a full human battle fleet to drive off the advanced scouts, and the Draconians had joined the Alliance immediately afterward. The key to our success, Sarah reflected as she walked through the command center, was not forcing species to join us but making them want to join us. She paused at a display showing the current disposition of Alliance forces. Over 4,000 ships from dozens of species, all working together under human command. Each species contributed their unique strengths to the common defense. The Altarians provided industrial might, their worlds transformed into massive shipyards and weapons factories. The Zephyrians offered speed and reconnaissance, their natural agility making them perfect scouts and fast attack specialists. The Quillians brought intelligence and analysis, their brilliant minds now focused on understanding enemy capabilities. Even the smallest species had found roles. The mouse-like Pequin had become the Alliance's communications specialists, their small size allowing them to install equipment in places others couldn't reach. The crystal-based Luminari served as living computers, processing vast amounts of tactical data. Coordinator Chen called a voice from across the room. Incoming priority message from Deep Space Monitor Station Alpha 7. Sarah immediately moved to the communication station. Alpha 7 was positioned at the very edge of the galaxy, equipped with humanity's most advanced sensors. If they were sending priority messages, it could only mean one thing. The message appeared on the main display, and Sarah felt her heart rate increase as she read it. Long-range sensors have detected massive energy signatures approaching from extragalactic space. Configuration matches predicted Devourer fleet composition. Estimated time of arrival at Galactic Edge 6 months. The war room fell silent. After 5 years of preparation, the moment they had all been dreading had finally arrived. All senior commanders to battle stations, Sarah ordered calmly. Activate Protocol Omega. Send word to all Alliance worlds. The Devourers are coming. Within minutes, the chamber filled with military leaders from across the galaxy. Species that had once been enemies now worked side by side, united in their determination to survive. "How many ships?" asked General Zethmar, his stone-like face showing no emotion. The censor officer, a young human named Lieutenant Torres, consulted his displays. "Preliminary count suggests over 10,000 vessels, sir. Each one approximately the size of a battle station. They're traveling in a formation we've never seen before, like a living wall of destruction moving through space." Admiral Silandra's melodic voice carried a note of concern. "Our intelligence suggested they would arrive in smaller groups. This is their entire invasion force, which means they're not planning to conquer the galaxy," Director Vexara observed. "They're planning to devour it completely all at once." Sarah studied the tactical displays showing the approaching fleet. The Devourers were indeed massive, but they were also following predictable patterns. After 5 years of studying long-range sensor data, humanity had developed detailed models of their behavior. "Execute Plan Omega-7, she commanded. "All defensive fleets to assigned positions. Activate the minefield barriers along the galactic rim. Begin evacuation of outer rim colonies to fortress worlds." The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Messages flew between star systems as the entire galaxy mobilized for war. Ships that had been scattered throughout Alliance space began converging on strategic positions. Weapons platforms that had been disguised as space stations activated their combat systems. Civilian populations began evacuating to heavily defended core worlds. But the most important preparations were happening in secret locations throughout the galaxy. "Status on Project Prometheus?" Sarah asked quietly, using a code name known only to the highest-ranking commanders. "All devices are in position and ready for activation," replied a human colonel, whose name wasn't listed in any official records. "We have full coverage of all major strategic systems. Project Prometheus was humanity's ultimate backup plan. If the Alliance forces couldn't stop the Devourers through conventional warfare, they would activate weapons that could destroy entire solar systems. Better to deny the galaxy to the Devourers than let them consume everything." Sarah hoped it wouldn't come to that. "Incoming transmission from the Devourer fleet," announced the communications officer. The main display changed to show something that chilled everyone in the room. The Devourers didn't look like any living beings the galaxy had ever encountered. They appeared to be made of living darkness with forms that seemed to shift and change even as they spoke. "We are hunger," the lead Devourer communicated in a voice like grinding metal. "We are consumption. This galaxy will feed us as countless others have. Resistance is meaningless. Your civilizations will become part of us." The transmission ended, leaving the war room in tense silence. "Well," Sarah said after a moment, "at least they're honest about their intentions." She activated the galaxy-wide communication system, connecting every Alliance world, every military unit, every civilian population center. "This is Supreme Military Coordinator Chen speaking to all Alliance forces and civilian populations," she began, her voice carrying to billions of beings across thousands of worlds. "The enemy has arrived. For 5 years we have prepared for this moment. We have built weapons they cannot imagine. We have learned tactics they have never encountered. We have united species that were once enemies into the greatest military force in galactic history." She paused, looking around at the assembled commanders representing dozens of species. "The Devourers believe they can consume us as they have consumed other galaxies. They believe we will surrender or flee as others have done. They believe we are weak because we choose cooperation over domination." Sarah's voice grew harder, carrying the promise of violence that had made humanity the galaxy's apex predators. "They are wrong. We are not the civilizations they have faced before. We are not helpless prey waiting to be consumed. We are the Alliance forged in fire and tempered by necessity, We are dozens of species united by a single purpose: to survive. She activated tactical displays showing Alliance forces moving into position throughout the galaxy. The Devourers want a war? We'll give them a war unlike anything they've ever seen. They want to feed? They'll find that this galaxy has teeth. The transmission ended, and Sarah turned to face her commanders. "Gentlemen, ladies, and honored beings of all species," she said with a cold smile, "let's show these Devourers what happens when they threaten our home."